What's going on, guys? Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I am bringing you a legacy deck centered around Deluge Blastoise and Allergy Flower Vileplume. Yes, this is going to be an item lock deck. And before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you guys like this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, click that subscribe button. It helps us out a ton, and let's do more cool stuff for you guys. And if you are new to the channel, please consider checking out our Discord. There will be a link in the description below where we just talk to you guys, and we have different channels for everything from Smogon to TCG to draft format. So yeah, if you guys want to check that out, feel free. And then as for the question of the day, this is more of a logistical question than I normally do. Normally I like to have something where it's kind of like a what's your guys' favorite water type, what do you guys think of this card, blah blah blah. This one is more of like I'm legitimately asking and I'm looking for feedback on this. So spoiler alert, this is going to be a non-ladder video. So basically what I've had in the past is I've had trouble getting good legacy matches on the ladder. You guys have had some videos where I have 3 or 4 games where my opponents are running things like Great Ball. They're just playing very non-competitive decks, and so a lot of you guys understandably have not found it as entertaining as if I were to go up against competitive decks. So what I did for this video is I went up to my buddy Jock, and huge shout outs to him for helping me and dealing with me, by the way. I mean, Jock, you are the real MVP. So what I did with him for this one was I just recorded him and I playing a match with this deck against one of his competitive decks, and just was able to, I mean, it ended up being a very good match that I will be commentating later in this video. And so my question of the day is, do you guys mind if I do that? Would you rather see me do less competitive ladder matches or just whatever the ladder? Are you okay with something along the lines of me just going up against a friend, not doing ladder matches, but doing more like competitive legacy matches where I can actually get full good games against solid players with solid decks? So please let me know in the comment section down below what you guys prefer, because if you want me to do ladder matches, then that's what I'll do. I will just take whatever the ladder gives me and goes with it. But if you guys are okay with me doing some games against my friends and their good decks, then that is awesome, and it makes it a lot easier to get quality legacy content. So yeah, let me know in the comment section down below what your guys' thoughts are on that matter. But anyway, onto the deck. Before I fully get into it, just want to give a shout out to William Herrman, who came up with this idea in the first place. I took the deck list from him and kind of ran with it, but the whole idea is centered around 2 stage 2s, Blastoise with Deluge and Item Lock from Vileplume. Now, Blastoise Keldeo is an established deck. Like, that's already a deck that is very solid. It's a deck that anybody that's played the TCG for a long time knows, and it is definitely a threatening deck in the legacy format, where the whole strategy is to just get a bunch of energy onto Keldeo and basically just swing for game, take a bunch of big knockouts, and Blastoise lets you attach a ton of energy per turn. This strategy is around getting a Blastoise and a Keldeo setup, but also a Vileplume. Now, the legacy format is very, very heavily item based. In fact, there are decks that just run like tons and tons of items. Like Junk Arm is basically a 4 of in almost any legacy deck. Therefore, Item Lock completely shuts you out of all of those items and puts you with a deck that is designed to work under Item Lock at a huge advantage over your opponent who suddenly can't use items. Then also, this is a little bit, well, this would be less strong in the expanded and standard formats, as there are things that can bring up, Lysander and Guzma, that can bring up Vileplume on the bench, and if you don't have a Floatstone on it, just strand your Vileplume. However, in the legacy format, those don't exist. The only way to bring Vileplume out and try to stall with it is either Red Signal from Genesect, or I think it's Bright Look from Ninetales. And if either of those go off and they bring up Vileplume and don't KO it, well, you can just rush in with Keldeo, and suddenly Vileplume is back on the bench. So there's a ton of synergy going on there. And also, because Vileplume's Allergy Flower is a Poke Body and not an ability, abilities, well, it will not be shut off by Garbodor. That way, once you're able to get a Vileplume up, if you can knock out your opponent's Garbodor, then you do have access to your abilities again, and your opponent is completely incapable of getting up another Garbotoxin unless they already have the item attached. So, I mean, you still have the ability. I mean, basically, the fact that it's a Pokebody works incredibly well with this deck in terms of making sure that our abilities do not get shut off and just put us in the best position to win. So it's a really, really, really cool synergy that I really like about this deck. And the whole strategy is just get Vileplume and Blastoise out as quickly as possible, and then just attach a bunch of energy and swing for game. So I'm going to try to speed this up a little bit, as I was talking about the synergy quite a bit beforehand. But for the numbers of Pokemon, we have a 3-1-2 line of Oddish through Vileplume, just because it's so crucial to the strategy. You want to have multiple Oddish out, that way your opponent can't just try to target down the Oddish. There have to be multiple Oddish that your opponent have to take out in order to keep you from getting that Vileplume. And also, we want this Oddish that has the water resistance, so that it is hit 10 damage less by other water Pokemon that try to attack the Oddish in the active spot. And then 1-2 of Gloom and Vileplume, because, I mean, we need to get Vileplume up as quickly as possible, but we don't need more than one. 3 Keldeo as the main attacker. We just want 3 of them so that we do have, well, more than one. We're not just all in on one Keldeo. We have multiple attackers, just be able to, well, just go through them with multiple rush-ins, just be able to rush in with multiple of them to avoid things like paralysis, poison, reset status, all those types of things. 4-3-2 of Squirtle through Blastoise, because, again, this line is also incredibly important for the strategy, if not more so, because you can have a Vileplume up, and if you don't have a Blastoise, you're probably not going to win, but you can still win with a Blastoise if you don't have a Vileplume up. So Blastoise is more important than Vileplume, thus a heavier line. And then we are also running a single copy of Suicune with Safeguard in order to slow our opponents down and help us get set up a little bit quicker. Now, as for the rest of the cards, as for the trainer cards, we are running only 9 items in this deck, because this deck is meant to function under item lock. It is meant to get set up as quickly as possible, but then function under item lock for the rest of the game, which is something our opponent's deck cannot claim, which will put us at the advantage. 1 Computer Search, just because this is all about combos. This deck is all about combos and getting them set up as quickly as possible. So Computer Search just gets us that one piece that we need to get set up. 4-4 of PCOM and Rare Candy. PCOM over Ultra Ball, because with the heavy number of Pokemon that we are running, more than likely you will have a Mon in your hand that you're able to PCOM out into a Mon that you want, and thus you don't have to discard like you would with Ultra Ball. And then absolute max number of Rare Candy, as this deck does rely on getting 2 Stage 2 Mons set up as quickly as possible. Actually, don't know why I don't have the Secret Rare Candy in this one, but I guess I just didn't change that. I mean, this Rare Candy still looks cool. We are also running 2 Tropical Beach in order to get more cards, just try to get this set up as quickly as we can. Tropical Beach allows us, because I mean, we're not going to be able to attack first turn regardless, so Tropical Beach just allows us to play out everything and then refill our hands up to 7 to have a better shot at getting that turn 2 Vileplume plus the turn 2 Blastoise. Now, as for the trainers, I'm actually really excited because there's a trainer that I never thought I would ever use competitively or seriously, and I actually am. It's this one right here. But first of all, we have 4 Fishermen as a way of recurring energy from the discard pile. I'm going to talk about this one last. For draw support, 3-4 of N and Oak, just because you don't want to discard a lot with this deck. N and Oak are just nice shuffle draw. 2 Pokemon Collector for early in the game. 2 Sage's Training, just to be able to go through cards, pick out 2 that you need off the top 5, and then discard the other 3 as they probably wouldn't be that useful to you. 1 Skyla to probably search out a Rare Candy or a Tropical Beach. 4 Twins, as this deck takes a little bit to get set up, so most likely you will fall behind to the faster decks. This just gives you any 2 cards out of your deck, and that is phenomenal. And 11 Water Energy. We want to run a ton, so that we are able to just attach a ton with Blastoise into Keldeo. And then the card that I'm most excited about using, Interviewer's Questions. Look at the top 8 cards of your deck, choose as many energy as you like, show them to your opponent, put them into your hand, shuffle the other cards back onto your deck. I mean, I never thought I would use that card competitively because it's really not that good, but in this deck it's actually very, very awesome for getting energy into your hand for Deluge. But anyway, I've talked for way too long. Let's go ahead and see this deck in action. Alrighty, so we are in one against my buddy Jock, and the reason that I am doing this is because the Legacy ladder has been dead in many of my lives, so I decided that this time I would just kind of forego the ladder and just do matches against a friend that had a couple Legacy decks. This way I can ensure that the matches are quality and that they actually last longer than a couple turns, because particularly with this deck, when I tested it on the ladder, as soon as I got Vileplume up, people just started clicking X. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I'm going for in this one. We are up against him and his Reshiflosion deck. So we automatically have the type advantage, but okay, so let's see. Unfortunately, don't get anything that immediately gives me like a turn 2 Vileplume, but regardless, I do have a very solid start. I'm able to get a couple Squirtle and an Oddish out. So that is not going to spell good things for him, unfortunately, if I am able to get the turn 2 Vileplume. That will just be relatively devastating for him, unfortunately. So, yeah, we're in a very good spot. We have, I mean, he's starting to use his items, but I mean, that is to be expected. This next turn, I'm going to evolve one of my Squirtles into a Wartortle, and I actually think I'm going to be using Blastoise as an attacker this game. That way, he's not able to get blue flares off on my Keldeo, and Keldeo can just come in, like he'll be forced to use 2 blue flares to knock out a Blastoise. And then at that point, if I'm just trading 1 for 1, I should be in a good enough position where I can take that, and especially because I just need to attach the minimum amount of energy due to the type advantage that I inherently have with my Blastoises and my Keldeos. So this looks to be a good setup for me, and if I can get a turn 2 Vileplume, then that will pretty much... I mean, he's a good enough player that he can definitely play through it, and I'm excited to see how he handles this. But he can definitely play through it, but where was I going with this? Oh yeah, I'd be interested to see how he handles being item locked in Legacy, where you really just... Item lock is not a thing that you generally face. So, top deck into the rare candy. Kind of wish I had saved my Pecom from last turn, but let's just go ahead and evolve into Wartortle and then go for the Oak, see what I can get. And alright, so I get something that I can work with. I mean, I get a turn 2 Blastoise, which is absolutely phenomenal. And I am going to be able to get a Keldeo up as well, but unfortunately no attack just yet. I need 3 more energy to be able to either attack with Blastoise or my Keldeo. And considering I don't have that, I'm not able to attack with either, so I am just going to go ahead and Oak next turn. And unfortunately, I haven't drawn into one of my 2 Tropical Beaches, which is a huge, huge boon for this deck, and is one of the reasons that I am able to get a Blastoise and a Vileplume up turn 2. If I'm just able to play out all my cards and then end my turn by drawing up to 7, that is insanely strong, and is something that I definitely want to be able to do. So my opponent does get a second Chorus, and he's getting a pretty solid setup. He's going to have a Quilava setup, he's about to get another Cyndaquil, and assuming he doesn't have anything else in his hand, he's going to be able to get a fresh hand of 6 from Eek, and potentially just have Cleffa be able to stall for another turn. So he is going to go ahead and Eek, get a fresh hand of 6 cards. I mean, that's pretty strong for him as well, and he does stay asleep, so even if I draw into the energy, I will not be able to knock him out. So I'm just going to go ahead and Professor Oak's new theory to see if I can get something else, and... well, if I had 1 more energy, that could work, but I mean, then again, I guess the Cleffa is going to be able to... not be knocked out this turn anyway, so I will just attach the energy with Deluge onto my Keldeo, and then just Tropical Beach up to 7, see what I can get. And alright, so I'm going to be able to get another Blastoise. If I can get a rare candy off of Sage's training, I will be able to go into a Vileplume. And unfortunately, this is one of the slowest Vileplume setups I've ever had. I mean, this is... I know that 2 turns ago would have been a turn 2 Vileplume, and this past turn would have been a turn 3 Vileplume, but usually I can get it up by turn 3. Like, usually my opponent is locked out of items by now, because I'm usually able to get that set up. Unfortunately, I just have not been able to draw into the right combination of cards, and hopefully I will be able to next turn, because 4 turns without items is far too many, and the sooner I can shut down my opponent's abilities, the better, because that will allow me to, you know, shut down their items, and my deck is meant to be played without items, whereas his deck is heavily reliant on those, and once I can get those shut down, that will hopefully spell game for me. But if he gets enough Typhlosion set up, then that's actually going to be relatively interesting and should make for an interesting endgame. But my opponent does grab another Typhlosion with his PCOM. Does he have a rare candy into it? Does not look like it. One thing that I did not mention is the fact that Cleffa did stay asleep, so my opponent was not able to eke that turn, which is great for me. And now I am able to attack with Keldeo. So let's Sage's Training, see if we can draw into a rare candy. Let's hope that we are. And no, we are not. So I'm going to grab the Gloom and the Water Energy. Yeah, looks like I am going to be forced to just play it slow once again, just evolve Oddish into Gloom, and then go from there. So luckily it does get rid of a couple cards that I really don't need to see. Able to get rid of N, get rid of Twins. Twins are not going to be able to help me because I will not be falling behind this game. In fact, I'll probably be pulling ahead. And at this point, I'm just going to, I think, just attack with Keldeo. I mean, I know I said I wanted to start attacking with Blastoise, because as soon as my opponent gets Reshurams going, then that is going to be able to 2-hit KO Keldeo, and hopefully I will be able to take 2 prizes. But a 2-prize exchange for him works out a lot better because his engine is from the discard pile, whereas mine is just from my hand. Like, I have to get the energy into my hand somehow. So let's go ahead and counter that Verbank so he doesn't have any Laser Bank shenanigans going on. But I'm able to take out the Clef, take a prize, and unless my opponent disrupts my hand, I will be able to finally get my Vileplume up. Turn 5, I believe it will be, which is a lot later than I'm normally able to get it, and my opponent's able to get a good enough setup at this point that this is going to be interesting. So he does have the reversal as well. Please don't hit heads. Oh, he hits heads. He's going to be able to knock out my Gloom, and that is going to delay the item lock even further. Luckily, I do have the Oddish in my hand. And also, I mean, this isn't bad for me. Because he's forced to reversal out the Gloom and deal with that, because, I mean, obviously item lock is incredibly devastating for his deck. I'm going to be able to go into Keldeo. Keldeo's not going to take a hit, and I will be able to one-shot the Reshiram back with Secret Sword, and Keldeo will be able to take 2 prizes. So this actually works out well for me, and is another reason why this deck is actually, sorry, hit the table right there, why this deck is actually a pretty solid deck, because, I mean, item lock in itself is devastating, particularly in the Legacy format, where you're not used to having to deal with item lock. Like, you have a bunch of junk arms, other stuff like that. Like, you're not used to having to deal with item lock. And so there's that, but there's also the fact that Keldeo Blastoise is a very, very strong combination, and the fact that my deck is going to be specifically tailored to being able to play and do stuff under item lock. That just makes it that much stronger. So he is able to take me out. I'm going to go ahead and grab the Oddish. And honestly, I'm just going to go for the Tropical Beach. I could have Keldeo'd in and knocked him out, but I really wanted to try to grab the rare candy with that Tropical Beach, and unfortunately that didn't work out. But another thing, with the Twins in my hand, if my opponent manages to knock out this Blastoise, then I will have Twins active, and so then that can get me my rare candy into Vileplume, which is what I need. So regardless of whether or not my opponent knocks out this Blastoise or not, I should be actually in a good spot, because here I can just play it out until I get rare candy into Vileplume, because I will finally be able to start attacking with Blastoise in order to knock out the Reshiram. And as long as Blastoise is attacking and Keldeo isn't potentially getting hit, then that is all I need. So what's he going to switch into? Is he just going to go into his other Reshiram? That is fine with me. What's he going to do? Okay, he's going to laser me. If he puts me to sleep, I can always just rush in with Keldeo. But he does not have the Verbank in play, and then he ends me. So this is This can be good, but it also can be bad depending on what I draw into. Well, if I can get a PCOM, then I can go ahead and get my Vileplume, which will be phenomenal. But if I don't... Okay, so I have a rare candy. And is he going to get another rare candy Typhlosion? Because if so, yes he is. So he now has 2 Typhlosion and 3 Reshiram on the field. So because my Vileplume took so long to get out, my opponent now has an amazing setup, which is going to actually be somewhat difficult for us to overcome. So luckily we wake up, meaning that I don't have to send Keldeo in, and I don't draw into my Vileplume. So what I'm going to do... could go into Keldeo. I could just have Keldeo rush in. I could rush in and retreat. Or I could just force his hand by powering up Blastoise. Because, I mean, Blastoise isn't going down anytime soon. I mean, it's going to go down to a blue flare regardless at this point of the poison or not. So what I think I'm going to do is just force him to deal with the Blastoise in front of him. Force him to deal with the 1 prize Blastoise in front of him, because I do have a second Blastoise on the bench. I'm going to play down the Squirtle, because, I mean, hey, a 3rd Blastoise is another attacker, is another thing I can play. Then let's see if I can get the Vileplume, which I do end up doing finally. So let's go ahead and Computer Search, get rid of both of my PCOMs, because, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to be under item lock. I'm going to grab my Vileplume, play the rare candy onto the Oddish, and let the item lock begin. Now he doesn't get any more junk arms, he doesn't get any more level balls, hypnotoxic lasers, any of that stuff. And then I could rush in. So do I want to? Do I want to preserve Blastoise? No, because Blastoise, like I said, will be going down to a blue flare anyway from this range. Poison, because he doesn't have the whatchamacallit, the Verbank in play, he's not going to be wearing me down particularly quickly to where I have to worry about that. So Poison is just doing an extra 10 damage in between turns, which, I mean, eventually can lead to him being able to knock me out with an Outrage, but that is a long time coming. So I think now that I have this set up, I'm going to be in a position to win this game. And I do get my interviewer's questions, so that's something cheeky that I'm going to be able to play this upcoming turn, hopefully draw into a bunch of energy. And he is going to get another Reshiram setup, but I think with my setup of Blastoise and a Keldeo, and then having another Blastoise on the bench, that way even if this one gets knocked out, I'm still good to Deluge. I think I am just fine. I think so. So he is going to go ahead and just add a couple energy onto the Reshiram. That is fine. I mean, this one, I mean, I guess he can just Outrage, or he can... Okay, he is just going to go ahead and Tropical Beach, draw into a new hand. I mean, that's a very good play. Just make sure that he has something he can work with. And okay, because I draw into the Collector, I could grab a Keldeo, but I want to go for interview question. See if I draw into any energy, and I do not. So that was kind of a wasted turn, because what I could have done with the Pokemon Collector is grabbed a Keldeo and then played the energy onto that. But for the time being, I'm just going to start powering up this second Blastoise, I believe. Because also with the Fisherman in hand, I will be able to get the 4 energy from the discard pile that this Blastoise is going to put there once it gets knocked out. So I'll get that energy right back into my hand, and then I can always just set up another Keldeo. Like, I can probably grab 2 Keldeos with my Pokemon Collector at this point. So yeah, this first Blastoise is finally going to go down, but the prize count is 3 to 5 at this point. I will be able to take one-hit knockouts on the rest of his Mons, and he will have to take 2 shots on Keldeo and Blastoise. There's no way he can pull off plays like Hypnotoxic Laser, Verbank, plus Silver Bangle, because he is locked out of items at this point. So I think this might be GG. I mean, to his credit, he is playing insanely well. I mean, he has type disadvantage, he has item disadvantage, like deck build disadvantage, simply because my deck is designed to play under item lock and his is not. I mean, in the type disadvantage, I cannot stress how big that is, just because I'm able to easily take one-hit knockouts. Like, I don't have to attach a bunch of energy in order to get one-hit knockouts because of weakness. Meanwhile, he's going to have to take 2-hit knockouts. So this is huge, and then he does just have to go for the Tropical Beach, so I'm pretty sure at this point that's just going to be game, because I'm going to be able to Pokemon Collector, keep all of, like, I don't have to prioritize Fisherman over Collector just because there's nothing for me to Fisherman. Like, the energy is still on the board right now. So I am just going to Deluge, put this energy onto my Keldeo, get another Keldeo set up, and then after I knock out this Reshiram, I'm pretty sure that's just going to be game, because I'm going to be able to easily take one-hit knockouts. Like, I'll be able to take 2 more knockouts in these upcoming turns, and I don't think there's much my opponent can do about it at all. So let's just... Well, I mean, actually, I just checked my PMs on Discord, and as it turned out, he accidentally clicked Tropical Beach at the end of that turn. I mean, he only got 1 card. He should have knocked out the Blastoise. So because he's a friend and I'm trying to make this a good match, I just went ahead and grabbed Tropical and played Tropical Beach so that he would be able to he'd be able to have the turn that he played out. So I mean, like, I'm trying to be a good guy. Like, this is a just for fun match to show off a deck. And I'm not going to just be like, oh no, this is super duper serious. Like, no, this is for fun. It's for showing off a deck. And if he accidentally clicked Tropical Beach, then I'm not just going to be a jerk and be like, nope, I'm going to take advantage of this. I'm going to let him have his play. So Blastoise does go down. But now I get to pull off the very nice play of Fishermaning all 4 energy back. And now I'm going to have an army of 3 Keldeos set up at this point. So... yeah, I mean, this is going to be game. Like, I'm going to be able to knock out the Reshiram right here with a Secret Sword. It's going down. He can go into his other Reshiram, but that's going to 2-hit KO me. I'm going to be able to OHKO it back. And then with my 3 Keldeos, I'm going to be able to just... like, even if he's able to discard energy with Typhlosion off of my Keldeos, I have enough Keldeos and enough of them powered up, as well as the energy in my hand, that I will be able to just... I will just be able to power through that discarding of energy, and then worst case scenario, I can always just Skyla for another Fisherman to get those energy back. Yeah, it will be a supporter for my turn, but I mean, playing a supporter to get a supporter is something that I'm completely okay with, and is something that this deck is designed to do. I mean, this deck is designed for the slow, grindy game. And yeah, he is just going to go for the Typhlosion plays at this point. Reshiram is going to be able to hit me for 120 damage, but I can just rush in with one of my other Keldeos and take the knockout on his Reshiram, which is... he is the cool art of Reshiram, by the way. And so yeah, Blue Flare is going to do 120 damage to my Keldeo, but at this point this is largely ceremonious, just because we are going to be able to knock him out. And I'm going to grab the Fisherman just because, I mean, just to show him that I have it. I will be able to take care of whatever energy discarding he manages to do, whether that's knocking out a Keldeo or just going nuts with Typhlosion. I'm going to rush in with a new Keldeo, knock out his Reshiram, and take one of my last 2 prizes. And at this point, it is 1,000,000% GG. There is legitimately no way that he can... there's legitimately no way that he can avoid the... there's no way that he can avoid losing this coming turn. I mean, he's going to go for his Flare Destroy, discards an energy off of me, but he also discards an energy off himself, which, I mean, isn't a big deal. Like, yes, this Keldeo can't attack, but I do have 2 Keldeos on the bench that are fully powered up and able to just rush in and one-shot. And so, just to show him that, I'm going to... actually, you know what? I'm not going to attack with the active Keldeo. I'm going to give this Keldeo on the bench some love. So that way I attacked with every single one of my Keldeos, took the knockout on the Typhlosion Prime, and we are able to take the game. So that was a very, very good match. I mean, I want to give Jock a ton of credit because, I mean, he was at legitimately every sort of disadvantage this game. I mean, he was at type disadvantage, he was at deck build disadvantage, like he was going second on top of that, but he played that excellently. I mean, he prioritized taking out the Vileplume because he knew that once he was item locked, that would be a very, very difficult game. So I really do not want to undersell how incredibly he played that game. I mean, he's a very talented player. And yeah, he played that game very, very well. He played that deck very well. And I think I'm just going to call it right there. Hope you guys enjoyed. I know that this is not a ladder match, but it is still a very quality legacy match against a quality deck and a quality opponent. So I hope you guys don't mind if I continue to do that in the future. It just increases the quality of the legacy content that I'm able to bring you guys. And once again, thank you so much to Jock for this game and being just an awesome guy all around. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.